Hey everyone, it's Joel again, founder of the Moonlighters Club, here to start your episode off right with some background. So, on this episode, this is the final episode. I think this is the last interview that I held at the Boston Public Library before I moved to DC. This is the last one I had with video and audio because they supply it for free, as well as green screens and all kinds of stuff, lights. And after this one, I moved to, I think actually after this episode, I went to Kenya for a wedding, moved to DC, and kind of went silent for a few months. So this was the ending of an era, I guess, the beginning of a new one. And with this, I interviewed a friend of mine, Steve Hopkins. I went to Suffolk University with him, and then he left Suffolk to pursue his passions in architecture or architectural design, if I said that correctly. So on this episode, we talk about his clothing line, his passions for design, why it's important to him, the work that goes into his brand, how he juggles it, being a full-time student, working at an architecture firm, and what we've just been up to. So I hope you enjoy it. This was a fun one. It was a good one. It was a sad one because this was it for me in Boston, a city I hold dear. I grew up in and lived in for a while as an adult before I headed off to DC. But I hope you're able to find it. For all my fashion folks, this would be a good one for you. And for people who are just, in the mood for a good story and some inspiration, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
I don't moonlight as a rapper. My jersey up too high in the rafters. I got a project team, new life and attractive. Still sipping that moonshine and I'm plastered.
All right, man. Well, welcome back to Moonlighters Club. I'm here with pretty special guests, man. Actually, I feel like most of the people I've interviewed, I know through some capacity outside of this. But what up, Stevie?
How's it going, bro?
Chilling, man. How you been?
Good, man. Good. Always a pleasure to see you, man. Glad to see you doing well.
Yeah, you too, man. You too.
Yeah, life is good, man. Just finishing up a lot of stuff. Always moving,
Good. For those of you watching, Stevie's part of the club of people I went to Suffolk University with who are in the entrepreneurship program. And we are one of the, this is going to sound stupid, but we're one of the select few who actually wanted to be entrepreneurs. And it's weird, man. You have a lot of kids who go there who do want to start a business. You have people who want to probably buy businesses, or some people who just went there to work. And I feel like there were about 6 of us who were like, nah, man, we're just going to do our own thing at some point in some capacity. So I actually been following you on IG for a minute. Actually, what was this, 2014? 2013, yeah, you were one of the few people I knew who was IG heavy. Everyone else was still I think Snap was new. That's when Facebook was still being used. That's when, YouTube and stuff. You were one of the few people who had thousands of followers that I knew about locally.
Yeah, I credit so much of even the ability to believe in myself to IG.
Yeah.
It's really an amazing tool to be able to see something and have a direct result afterwards. All right, we spent all this time on this campaign. We're gonna make this thing. We do a photo shoot, whatever, with this idea. Immediately you get feedback.
Right,
2 seconds later, and it's such a valuable thing. I think now it's I have a joke with my friends. It's the Instagram purge thing going on right now.
Yeah,
numbers have been down. The insights haven't been what they used to be. Obviously when they changed the algorithm a year ago or so. To make really popular accounts higher up on a feed.
Yep.
Kind of sucks. But I do appreciate the live feature and things like that.
Right.
These are all super cool things that I really credit a lot of success to IG.
And and getting into what you do, one thing why I don't complain about any time a company is yo, we're gonna change this up so people can't hack this anymore, is it's easy to be really pretty or really just popular and just post something and everyone's gonna like it. That's just how it is, man. If I see a celebrity post anything, I'm probably gonna be yeah, I want to see what Will Smith ate. And I'm gonna give that more likes or whatever, beautiful woman more likes than someone who's just doing normal stuff. However, whenever I see someone who's engaging, whenever I see someone do something really innovative or an ad or a clothing ad that isn't just a piece of clothing, that's something else, that's when I'm okay, I'm going to comment, I'm going to follow, I'm going to see what their website looks like, I may spend some money here. And that's what I think is going to happen. You always weed out the cheaters at some point, man. Everyone's always trying to finesse the system until we hit a wall. And now we're at the wall.
Yeah.
And I feel everyone who knows how to actually grind
we'll get past it.
That's true.
So with that said, explain your. Yeah, it is. Well, at one point it was a moonlighting venture. Explain your venture.
Okay. I'll go sort of like a little bit of history about myself and sort of the origin of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So when I met you, I was working on Metropolitan Society, the online magazine, which basically was me doing interviews with like artists, architects, designers, and stuff like that around Boston and throughout the world, really. And you know, I just had an interest in design. Like I really loved it, and I wanted to find a way to like, you know, make money at it and make it a career path. But I wasn't in design school, obviously.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, after 2 years of Suffolk, I said, fuck it. I'm going to go like learn how to actually design shit and stop like hearing about other people designing shit.
Yeah.
And went and did that. So this part holds sort of like my transition from, you know, at the same time, it was basically the same sort of thing that happened was like, okay, instead of like producing this magazine, which we did design and laid out the whole thing. And like the dimensions of the magazine were like, you know, specific to what we made it. Like, you know, we designed this object.
What explain the work you put into Metro, because I remember that process.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, it was a fucking lot, dude.
Yeah,
it was a lot.
yeah.
Like, you know, we literally went from like a photo blog thing where
Yep.
we would just go to New York and take street style pictures of people, and this was like, you know, during the Tumblr era, like when that shit was like really popular.
Yeah.
To, you know, publishing a print magazine with interviews with, you know, like the current dean at Cooper Union, which is like, you know, one of the best architecture schools in the world. He has an office here called NADA, which was like 4 years ago ranked as like the #1 architecture firm in the U.S.
Wow.
So like,
Okay.
but like, you know, I was like 18 doing this interview, way over my head. Never
Right.
took a design course in my life.
Yeah,
So I'm like
yeah.
sitting there and like, you know, the whole firm's like looking at this guy because he's only in the office like once every 2 weeks. So like they all have questions. There's 30 fucking people waiting to talk to this guy, and it's like me and Jerry like fumbling with an SD card, like trying to like ask this guy questions and shit. You know? So like, you know, it started from things like that, just putting myself in those kind of positions where it's like, I don't even know how I got here. I probably don't deserve to be here, but we somehow finessed our way in, and we're gonna like try to make the most of it, you know? And ultimately the result of that was a print publication with a variety of artists that were all kind of curated by me. It was like,
Yeah.
you know, how can we each have these people tell their story and you know, create a brand behind that, so then people can be like, oh, I know what I'm getting when I see this magazine, you know?
How would you find the people? Would you just go online and just
Yeah, literally just researched, you know, like I've kind of just been a super geek about design and architecture and art and like all of this sort of like culture mixing pot. And I think now it's like become like a lot more popular in you know, sort of mainstream media, but like back then it was kind of like you had to do some digging. And it was just like all the shit I thought was cool, you know, like the photographer that did all the easy season shoots and shit.
Yeah.
Her work is actually really amazing. And I was like, fuck it, we're going to reach out. And not everyone, like, it was basically like, okay, how do I find the popular person and then the sort of person that like they look at for inspiration, you know?
Okay.
Like, no one knows Jackie Nickerson's photography, but if you know Kanye, you've obviously seen all the easy season shit. You know the color palette, you know, like you've seen all the photos, but you never knew it was her behind that lens fully, you know?
Yeah.
Like she actually, a lot of the first stuff was from a trip that she took to Africa. It was more of like a research development trip for her in her photography. So he saw those photos, got inspired, made clothes like sort of in lineage of the people that she was taking photos of, and then it became like Easy Season 1. You know, so no one knows like that kind of shit. No one knows that backstory, but she was really like a pivotal in those sort of decisions, you know?
Nice.
And there's always that person behind however glamorous something is. It's always
Exactly.
those people that really just have a vision and are like inspired by things. So that was kind of what it was about. It was about those kind of people.
Yeah, and it's funny, I never gave a shit about stuff like that until I started trying to make my own business.
Exactly.
Because when you're making your own business, you learn what other people, the only thing that people see. They'll see your name, your logo, the end product, but you know about all the marketing research you did, you know, all the surveys you passed out, you understand that? So now when I look at everything from a new rap album to literally a shirt, I'm like, okay, like how'd they come up with the concept of that, how they designed the concept, how they get it to production, all this stuff, and you just start to realize it. So sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. So you start making this print. How many did you make?
We made about 100.
Okay.
We made about 100. Sold a lot of them. I ended up slinging a bunch of free ones to people too, because I figured it'd be our first issue, and then like we'd go do another one from there. Tough business to get into. Basically broke even, which I was actually proud of.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
So like with print, especially like now, it's like, how do you get someone to buy a fucking magazine? You have to make a beautiful object. That's the only way to do it. So that's kind of what we were doing. Really just designing this thing. I spent a year developing that thing. And you know, I didn't do it for money or anything. It was just literally just for like, it just needed to come out of us.
I'm pissed I never got to see it, because I remember you talking about. Okay, I remember you talking about this. I remember you saying I want to make a magazine, but it wasn't about the magazine. You were literally like, no, it has to be these exact dimensions. And
Yeah,
at the time
yeah.
I was like, what? Like, I don't.
yeah, like you look at like Wired or whatever, and like or GQ or some shit, and it's this floppy thing. But this was more of like I don't know. So I want it to be precious. I want it to be an object that people like will look back at, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and it'll sort of like still be relevant, still stay with you,
Yeah.
and still be something you can reference. That's the ultimate thing. When I go to school at architecture, my architecture school, I go in the library and I see books from 30, 40 years ago, and I still pull references and ideas from these things today, and
Yeah.
I will 50 years from now. So I wanted to make something that could be like that powerful.
Nice. So you started doing Metro, you started doing the print. And I remember you left Southwark to go to learn about design.
Uh-huh.
When you're doing this, once you break even, are you thinking of doing something else? Do you want to continue at Metro? Like, what's happening in your mind to say, I'm going to maybe jump into some other area?
Yeah, I had like sort of did that thing, and I was like, all right, I like writing and I like doing interviews and hearing about stories, but I really just want to design. And
Okay.
I always had this wall because I never grew up like having any idea that I could ever actually do that. No one in my family's a designer. The closest thing to an architect is my uncle, who is like a steel worker,
Yeah.
Like so
Yeah.
or construction people,
Yeah.
So for me to like take that and like sort of take that risk, it was kind of hard for me, and I didn't want to like disappoint anyone. If I'm living in my parents' house, I want to make sure I'm like making the right decisions. So I said, fuck it, I'm doing it. And they always supported me and gave me, whatever I needed. And, BAC is a very like, it's a fucking work house, bro. Like people go there and just grind. Like there's a lot of people that don't have big ideas, but will learn how to like the skill set to like be workers, which is obviously valuable and needs to exist.
Yeah.
And it takes a shit ton of work to be able to say you can be an architect generally, no matter, even if you have like your own practice, but just to like work in another company. It takes a really like large amount of effort,
Really?
just to have the skill set. And like, you go to business school, you can learn how to be like business savvy pretty quickly, but here to like really understand dimensions of things, materials, like codes, life safety issues, there's a fucking million things you have to like think about when you're making a space that actually could work.
Yeah.
So, I had always wanted to turn to a place where I didn't need to think about all the like the other shit, shit, and like sort of just express ideas,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how this thing developed. It was like, okay, I can still design my own shit, but I can tell a story behind it that doesn't have anything to do with the client. The client is who I choose, is my client. It's me.
Yeah.
So this is more of a storytelling thing than anything else. In the same way the book was like saying it by words, maybe this is saying it by objects.
Okay. So you start thinking of it. How'd you come up with the name Part Whole?
So it was actually just something that I frequently saw in like design books. There's like sort of this part to whole relationship of things, and a lot of it was I took a trip to Paris like 2.5 years ago when I first started this thing, and I saw the details on the buildings and like these really intricate like lines that are like in the doorway, and I'd be like looking at the fucking ground and like these little like crevices of like buildings for like 10 minutes, and I'm like investigating the shit. I'm like, wow, this thing is made with the same design intent as a larger scale like plan of a city or like whatever. It was this sort of this like you zoom into this one detail and it's still thought about just as much in these tiny dimensions as you zoom out to all of Paris and see like these amazing avenues and whatever, and like the way those lines work. So that's kind of how it was.
I would check your I remember following Metro and then following your IG stuff, and I would just find myself liking all your stuff because I didn't want to be not cool. So you take a picture of like a structure or something and you'd have a comment, and all these people are like, yeah man, it's cool. I'm like, yeah man, this is dope. I saw that too.
It's kind of like I never wanted to be this is where like the line between like brand and business and like artistry sort of like is blurred for me. Like I can run around you've probably seen my personal IG. It's all these like random little like details and things of buildings that like probably most people don't even understand what the fuck I'm talking about, or like what I even see in it. Like my friends always make fun of me because I take pictures of like trash and shit on the ground, but it's the way the sort of like images is like cropped and like where this composition is made from that makes the thing cool to me.
Yeah.
Materials speak for themselves. Like if you look at like the history of modern art or contemporary art, even people throw random shit in galleries all the time, and people are like, oh, what is that? It's not even art. But sometimes it's not about like what the thing is. It's about like what this object meant at that time, or like what can be implied by like the texture of this thing. Like there's a million ways to look at stuff. So it's almost the same way. You say like you look at people who actually own businesses, and then you're like, oh wow, there's like this whole massive thing that was behind like pushing this product out that were like, the a million iterations of the thing that didn't work.
Yeah.
You think about that. It's the same way I look at like a piece of artwork. It's like, oh, there's a million lines that they didn't draw that could have been there instead of this one, So for me, like those little photos I take on my IG are like my notation devices, my little like my sketchbook kind of,
Yeah.
And a lot of those metro photos were that also, it's like, oh wow, I never like thought of making this building cantilever out this way, or making the space do this, or having light shine like this.
Yeah.
So those were actually just like little moments of like, oh, I need to remember that next time I design something. Boom.
Then you would do it.
Yeah.
So you said it took you a while to get the book coming because you needed everything specific. I know how you are when it comes to design. So in terms of the clothes, what were the first things you did to kind of get that going? Because this always interests me. I don't know much about manufacturing. And then how long did it take you to decide on a name, decide on the brand? You know what I mean? So like, what even, once you realize, okay, I want to make clothes, how do you even get started?
So I am just as much as like a work, like work speaks to me. Like I want people to fucking do shit. Like I'm on the move, So like for me, once I have an idea, it's like if I don't capture it in this moment, it's never going to exist. Because this is here, the energy's here. I got to fucking do it. I sort of had this moment, in like January, 2 years, like 2017 or so. I was like, you know what? I kind of want to make a t-shirt. I'm going to make a fucking t-shirt, and I'm going to make 6 t-shirts after that, and I'm going to just keep doing it. So basically I was in Paris, and I was like, all right, I've been looking at this way of seeing like this part to whole relationship of things for a while because of architecture school.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how can I put this into like a tangible thing that, I can some kid can buy from wherever for like $40 or like, $60, and be a part of this thing. And hopefully they'll look at it and like see the world a little differently. How can I do that? So I was in the Louvre and like some of the like art galleries there, and I was like zooming in on these like details of hands and like these like gestural things from like a lot of the Baroque era paintings and sculptures. And I was like, wow, like this is massive, beautiful sculpture. But if you just look at these hands that are like holding each other, or like one's like really like aggressive, the other one's sort of like, calming, whatever. I was like, you can understand this whole piece just by looking at one little part of this entire sculpture,
Yeah.
So I started taking these little pictures of sculptures and like cropped moments of them and just printing them on tees. And that was sort of like my first line. It was called Hands of Man.
Okay.
And that was like, okay, I had an idea or a way of seeing basically.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put that into some sort of, visual thing, a picture it happened to be. And then we're just going to put it on a shirt, and like that will hopefully tell a story. That's the first way of telling a story. Now it's way different, like we have different fabrics. I have different dyeing techniques. Like things are way more like in depth, but it was like, all right, I'm just going to push these out there. If people buy it, they buy it. If they don't, fuck it.
So you even so the t-shirt was like a regular, because I only knew this having to do a t-shirt myself. So like a regular blend t-shirt, you're like, let me just get it out. I'm not even gonna stress this.
Yep.
Let's just get it out and see what happens.
Find someone that can print around here.
Cool. Okay.
I found someone in Somerville that would just print shit, and I didn't even print it on the tees. I printed it on a fabric piece of a fabric sheet. Had him print on that because I didn't want to buy a bunch of sizes of it and then have them not sell. So I basically was like, okay, let me take the image, the reason why the shirt's interesting, put it like separately from the shirt, and put it in this fabric, so that when I get an order, I'll just cut it and sew it myself and make it to order.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I'm not going to lose anybody other than I'll buy the shirt when they buy my shirt, and all I did was pay for the print and the fabric that the prints were on.
So what was the reception like?
It was dope. It was great. I mean, like, it's what made me continue to keep going. If it sucked, I probably wouldn't be here anymore. No, it was awesome, man. People supported me, man. Like I realized something, like when you just put something in the world that you really care about, like people will kind of surround you and support you. If like you can see when work is like there's something behind it, it's very noticeable. So like all my friends supported me, all the people around me, people I never knew. I started shipping shit to like Europe, like a couple days later, and this is from IG, bro. Like my marketing scheme was like putting a picture on Instagram that I took in my mom's backyard.
Wow. And people hitting you up and like, y'all want that? Yeah.
I just made a store on Squarespace. Like it's just a very basic, like simple things of like, how do I sell some shit? Google it. There's the answer. Do it.
So how do you go from one t-shirt to multiple items? You get one t-shirt. Are you now saying, okay, I want to make 6 shirts. Let me just make a ton of designs first, and then just print them all out in mass? Or are you more selective, kind of boutique style? Like, nah, I'm gonna come up with 4 things for the month. I'll figure out what the 4 things are, and then I'll just make them.
Yeah. I have 100 ideas I've thrown away. It's definitely that. And this is only one part of it. Like the photography and the way we display things is also a very important thing,
Yeah.
because I feel the photos themselves and the editorials and the lookbooks are actually saying just as much as these are. You just don't have to buy it. This is sort of my free, like, this is my artwork also.
Yeah.
But it's to the world, and anyone can look at it and hopefully take some like inspiration or feeling from it. So like the first lookbook we did for the Hands of Man stuff, I had my boy Rudney, who is like a rapper from Everett, like just a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Had him come through. We made a little fake set in my backyard.
Okay.
With like some sheets and like drapery shit from my house.
Yeah.
My boy was holding an umbrella to the sun, so we got like a distilled light, and we just took photos there. And then I took my photos that I took in Paris, sort of laid out a lookbook from it, the same way I would lay out the magazine, and then I just shot it around to a bunch of websites and blogs and shit like that, and we ended up getting some decent like reviews. So
Nice,
like,
man.
word.
Yeah.
Like High Snobiety, I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I know High Snobiety. Yeah.
We got on High Snobiety.
I try to stay hip. A little
yeah.
bit of genius, a little bit of the end. You know what I mean? That's cool.
So yeah, I mean, it was dope. I was like, I can't believe these photos are on, this website I used to glorify as a kid.
Yeah.
Even though this is my mom's backyard with like her fucking bed sheets and my boy from up the street.
That's awesome, man.
That's what it's all about. If you have a phone, if you have like now things are framed, things are on a phone, everything is framed, everything's an image. If you can control that and you really know how to work it well, like you can be anything.
So you're doing this full swing. So you started a couple of years ago. You're in class. What's that like? Especially now that I'm hearing that you got to like bust your ass at this school. What's it like doing this in school?
It's intense, dude. Like you gotta know that you gotta sacrifice shit. Like I haven't had a day off of working since I started. like I've traveled to New York or whatever, and like my friends are gonna go out, or like they're gonna go like walk around Soho or some shit. I'll be in Starbucks on my laptop like doing shit. Obviously I'll make time to like have fun and like network and like party and shit like that. But like you just gotta be. I feel like if you spend a couple hours a day every single day, it's sort of this repetition. It's the same thing as working out, bro. If you go to the gym every fucking day, you can't not get fit.
Exactly.
It's impossible to not. So if you can control that, then you're okay.
What do you find yourself doing most of the time? Is it networking, reaching out to folks? Is it designing? Is it all kind of blend in? Or do you know that there's one thing that you do see yourself doing more often than not when it comes to working on this?
That's a good question. I actually, I do architecture more than I do this. And I would prefer to do this more at times, but like architecture is super iteration based. It's super intense. You got to keep doing it. And like, you think you did something, 2 hours later, you got to redo it again and again and again and again and again and again. So I feel like this repetition thing is like really important. And I find myself doing that with the clothes too. Like I'll go to sleep after like doing a bunch of shit and be like, all right, I feel like this is in a good place. Wake up the next day and be like, nah, this is trash. Do it again. And you got to do it. Like these are all hand dyed. I did all these. This is originally like if you see the threading here, that's the original color of the shirt. So these are all like I wanted them to be like this. It's like there's a lot of control and like intention behind these things. So that's what it's all about. I think there's a moment you have to step away from design though. This really important moment.
What is that moment?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how for you?
Yeah.
When are you okay with going, okay, this isn't it?
When it literally fits the bill of what I thought it should, when I'm like, okay, this does it enough. I'm done. I need to step away and like do my marketing now. How am I going to design the lookbook? Because you have to think about that just as much as you have to think about the product itself. If not more,
Yeah.
Like how do you like that's my lifeline is selling these things. If I can't breathe, how can I make more?
Yeah.
Like if you spend too much time designing, it'll end up killing you because you can't do anything else.
Man, does that drive you crazy? Like I like this is definitely totally different beast than this. And I find myself not really like going crazy about the record stuff, the audio stuff. I'm like, no, man, if the content is good, we'll go. But the other stuff, like social media, art, event planning coming up, making sure the wording, and I'll stare at emails and notifications for like hours. Like, man, I use the word to or whom. Shit. Like, does that drive you crazy? The wanting things to be something a very specific way. Do you find yourself losing time with that, or have you mastered it to a point now where you're able to, even if you do get frustrated, step away and go, that's fine, I'll come back?
It's hard. It's really hard for me. Like I'm sort of like erratic. Like I'm always like doing shit. I'll be up at 3 a.m, like on a Tuesday, and like I'll be like, oh, like dying shit, you know. And I'm like, all right, I gotta chill, dude. Like I gotta chill. Like I try to tell myself all the time, like, yo, dude, you gotta chill. Like, so it's hard for me to step away from things. But I think like once I kind of feel it, I'm like, all right, this can do what the objective was. Then it's kind of time to like put it down. It does kill me sometimes, but then I also think in my mind, I'm like, you know, this separates the worker from the person in charge, the one who can step away and say, okay, we're done here. Now it's time to like promote this the way it should be.
Yeah.
That's where you need to be. And, you know, I find like content, for example, you know, like things that are filmed really well are going to get people to respond no matter what, because they're like, oh, this is a beautiful image. I feel that like I'm interested in just like what's happening. It could be literally anything. It could be a wine cellar. It could be a fucking construction worker. It could be us right here. But if it's filmed well and people are like, wow, these images are just almost like hypnotizing, you're gonna get people to look at your shit and pay attention.
So you were telling me something interesting before that you were working while you were still at school and doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And what you told me was fucking crazy. So I kind of want you, what was your normal, this is in full swing, school's in full swing,
Yeah.
and you're working a job, architectural firm?
Yeah.
So what was your schedule like when you were doing all of this at the same time?
Something that I probably can never replicate. You know, like as I get older, the more like tired I become.
Yeah,
you know?
dude, yeah, it's real.
Yeah, you know, like then the firm is small. You know, there's only 3-4 of us, and I had never worked in an architecture firm before in my life. So I'm like, anyone who's actually ever worked in this field knows that like the learning curve is really high. Like you're gonna fuck up for a long time before you can actually like do something that's correct. Like you don't just happen to know the building code of Vermont or some shit like off the top of your head, do you? Of course not. Like there's volumes of books that like tell you what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do.
So what are you doing at this firm at when you first got?
Wearing a ton of hats, you know, like I'm sort of like, you know, I'll do website shit that's like super like marketing based, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can redraw these plans and sections and stuff pretty easily because I have the skill sets in like, you know, 3D programming and Revit and things like that. Where that's okay, I don't even have to think about it, I can do it.
Okay.
But when you know, maybe we get a response from the building we have going up in Lincoln, they're like, okay, all these doors are in the wrong place. Yeah, someone needs to fix this right now. You know, it's a 60 unit building. I got to go in, think about every square inch of where to adjust these things the right way in the model.
Hearing that gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah.
Like,
It's anxiety, dude. I found myself like at the job site very often too, which is sick. To see something go from dirt to a building in front of your eyes is fucking amazing. Like it's like the coolest shit ever, you know.
Yeah.
Like to see drawings that like, you know, my boss did while I was standing next to him, to then see like the adjustment made in the field, super fucking cool. To the scale that it is, it's amazing. But you know, sometimes I'd be at these meetings alone. Like my boss had to go to another one, and they're asking me questions about like these like intricate details of like, you know, soffits or like, you know, things like this that I obviously don't know shit about because I have like no experience at all. And I have to answer the question. Like someone's got to answer the question. So
yeah,
a lot of it's like, all right, let me think about this for like 2 seconds. What's going to happen if I say yes? What's going to happen if I say no? Make the best decision on the spot. A lot of these like spontaneous like decision making things, which ends up helping this at the end of the day. You know, like anytime you know, I just always think back on like the times where I shouldn't have been in the shoes I was in. How do I like make sure I am in the right shoes? You know, or how do I make the most of that opportunity? You know, for what it's worth.
So run down that schedule you ran.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's because one, it's not even sounding like you can do stuff on the side with a job like architecture. Like I've always worked tech, so yeah, they're late days, but in reality, it's more of like onboarding things like that. You can kind of contain it. This is something else, bro. Like this is when you have stakeholders that are building buildings. Yeah. Like you're dealing with a different type of customer than I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with someone who just bought a piece of software. So it's like whatever, bro. I'm going home.
Yeah.
So like
you'll have the developer up your ass and around the corner for a very long time. You know, like these people invested millions. You know, like it's everything. Everything that you do incorrectly costs them tens of thousands of dollars, and it could be something that you literally just you exported you emailed the wrong file. You know, like it's that simple. You know, to fuck up everything. So you got to be on your shit, and that attention to details is really important. I know it's
just hearing it, dude. I'm just like, dude,
like, that's why I'm tweaking 24/7. But I mean, the schedule is basically like, you know, I work there. I trimmed it down to 3-4 days a week before I was doing basically full-time stuff, which is completely unhealthy for everyone involved. So 3-4 days a week. Basically, I get to the office around like 9 or so. Leave there at like 4. Right when I get there, my boss will call me. Usually, we work in a co-working space, so we don't actually have a full office, but we have like a pretty like he actually designed the co-working space, so it's kind of cool to be inside of a building that was already designed by him. Like, so we have like a little section of it that's kind of like blocked off from other people, and he'll call me right when I get in, tell me like the day, all the shit that needs to be done. In 2 hours that could change quickly. I mean, he's just as erratic as anyone else. Like he's like he's not 40. I'm not gonna like put his name out there or anything, but like he's a fucking genius. GSD, like Harvard GSD graduate. Like he's got his shit. Like he, obviously worked on this building and several other things. So he knows what he's doing and shit. But like he can get just as overwhelmed as anyone else. So like sometimes we'll try to work it out, and like if I fuck up, he'll get pissed. But then like at the end of the day, that like it's all good because
he gets it.
That's the game you're playing.
Yeah.
So basically, work till then fly over to school as fast as possible. Try to get all my homework done for like the class, and homework here is different. It's not like you're writing an assignment. This is my idea. You're going to school to show your ideas, and like you have to design a building that's mine. Instead of theirs. So I want to make it good. I want to do everything the way I can, the best I can. So work till leave there around 3-4. Usually classes at 6 till 10.
Yeah. Okay.
So pump out as much as I can in those 2 hours. Just like chug a triple espresso and go in. A print. Get redlined. Have the instructor be like, okay, this isn't right. This is good. This works. This doesn't. Blah 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 blah. Make all the adjustments, and then maybe work on it some more till like 10, 10:30, 11, 12 p.m. Try to go home and then work on this till like 2, 3 in the morning with design work, or like if I have orders that need to be fulfilled, usually I'll just bring them to the post office in the morning, and then do it again. That's kind of it's actually tiring just to say that like out loud.
And while I'm against the whole hustle porn thing of like telling people to do that, but if you find yourself doing something like that, I'm 36. Do it in your 20s. Like if you're going to do this, do it while you're young. Because literally your body just won't be able to make those types of adjustments. Yeah. But also you'll find out what you can. Like I've worked a lot of jobs I know, okay, not doing this type of industry. Like I found out what kind of schedules worked out for me. All that was figured out in my 20s. I did everything from warehouse stuff to door-to-door sales to whatever. So by the time I was late 20s, I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand what's important to me, what I like, what I'm willing to break my back for, and what I'm not willing to break my back for. So it made everything that much easier for now.
Answering those questions about yourself, I find are one of like the most pivotal things in being successful in anything. Like if you can make your decision, like if you know yourself well enough to like be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Like it's not going to be worth it. Or yeah, if I do that, then maybe that will result in me being in a position to make more money or more whatever this way. Then you're good. Like so. I think decision making quickly and knowing yourself in the process is like really important with just workflow. In totality,
What is your biggest win with Parthole? Was it
my biggest win?
Yeah, where you're just like, this is
cosigns from like cool websites like that I used to look at as a kid are really dope, and like the first time it ever happened to me, it was super cool to just say like I can turn my mom's backyard into like a potential gallery, like that's cool. But I've had two pop-ups in Boston that were like really fucking cool. And it wasn't even just generally like the numbers resulted from it, which were good and better than I expected. But the last one we did was like this collage workshop. So basically, I got a bunch of tees, made a bunch of graphics, and put them on paper. So basically, like we have a heat press that you just heat press the graphics onto. So I had like a selection of ones people could choose from, heat press lined up, and then a bunch of scissors and knives and like cutting mats and shit. So people could like cut up their graphic the way they wanted to, and they would press it and keep pressing until we get the graphic they want. And everyone has their own one-of-one, like my version of, or their version of my work, So like the shit that was coming out of there was sick, It's like, all right, these are paintings I like, so I'm going to get a bunch of graphics for them. People are cutting them up and like laying them out the way they want to. And they have now their own t-shirt there that's from my brand that exists only because of them, They're a part of the design process. So we did that pop-up. It was the collage workshop. And there was a party there too. We had like some of my boys that DJ and shit. Throw a party, which is cool. I think we ran the numbers. It's maybe like couple hundred people that showed up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It was like really hectic and crazy. We also built like all the tables that we had all the collage stuff on. I built with my friends from school.
Nice.
Yeah, one of my boys actually works at the firm that I was telling you about before that I had the guy I featured in the magazine.
Yeah.
He now is like the guy who runs the shop down there. Who I went to architecture school with him, so it's like everything kind of comes full circle.
Right.
So he's like amazing with like furniture design and things like that. So like I'll have an idea and we'll run it back and forth, and he'll end up coming through with all like the heavy saws and shit. We'll just start cutting up wood, design the space a little bit, laid out everything, and then just started slinging tees that people can like create their own part of.
Nice.
So that was definitely a big win because seeing the shit that was coming out of there was like, damn, no one else can replicate this
Right.
moment, and I think that was really special.
So everyone I talk to, it's generally about this business because maybe it means something very special to them at the time. With you, I think it's more than that. It's the beast of design. So where do you see yourself leaning? Is part whole something that you'll do for a little bit and you go, look, what's your grand scheme?
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like there's something in here that where you're like, yo, this is fine for right now. But there's something going on where that's going to be where I make my mark.
Yeah, that's a good question. This is where I always go if no one allows me in their door,
Yeah.
This is my like, okay, if you're not gonna let me work for your thing that's like bigger than mine at the moment, then fuck you. I'll just do it myself. Like that's always been my thing. Like if any time a door is closing in my face, I'm just gonna do it 10 times harder for myself anyway. So whatever.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
you can't fuck with me.
Yeah.
So this will always be here no matter what. Like it's always a place I can turn. Whenever I'm like, all right, I feel it's an expression for me. Like these tones, these like this is this sort of like rust texture that I saw at the steel mill near my house.
Okay.
I was walking around the steel mill. I was like, damn, these rusty reds are like sick. So like I'll try to replicate that as best I can with whatever shit I can kind of find. Like this was original tee was like this color.
Yeah.
And this is like oxidized, bleached, fucking dyed several times and like distressed a little bit to get this tone.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And then I'll bring that over like near the rusty thing and I'll be like, okay, did that do what I wanted it to do? Okay, yeah, word, done. This is now an object of art almost.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but
No.
yeah. So this is kind of something that I'll always be able to turn to, and if I feel something in a space, if I need to express something, this is where I can turn and like put it out there in the world, and then maybe if someone is invested in it, like they'll have their own version of it too. They can buy it.
Will you be building buildings? Like, is that where this is? Are you gonna make something we're gonna see for the next 70 years?
Yeah. I am for sure. I just want to make the right one. Like this for me. This is just as much of a drawing, part of the drawing board as like some of the drawings I do at work.
Yeah.
Or did at work that I quit. I definitely want to do buildings, and architecture has this amazing thing that it is about human beings. It is for humans, and I, like the scale of a building is just as specific to the human body as like a t-shirt is.
Yeah.
For sure. Every doorway, every door handle you touch is like made for your hand to do that thing. So it's the same shit, just on a different scale, different material. So I will be building buildings. I told you I had that little like set design thing in my mind that I kind of want to do also. Like I love part of the pop-up thing that was great was we had a space. Like we made our own space.
Yeah.
This was the closest thing to a part whole building or a part whole space you could ever be in, in that moment. It's temporary, it gets taken down. But hopefully like we can keep doing those little like pop-up things where like I'll get an open plan and then I'll have a couple other people that I like that design based on the sort of principles of this thing. We can now make space with these ideas, That's kind of where I want to take part whole specifically. My personal goals are also like definitely like large scale architecture down the road when I feel it's more necessary. And I think set design is a really interesting place where it's like large scale enough, but it's not it's temporary enough also, So that's kind of where I'm trying to get into that space now before I graduate to the big building,
Nice. Well, I know this is gonna sound super cheesy, but I just want to see if I can get one nugget for people who are watching or listening or trying to create. What's one little tidbit of advice you can give to someone who's trying to do their own, specifically design, let's say architecture, clothing? What's just one nugget that one thing you see recurring that you're like, yo, try to watch out for this or try to do this?
I think work comes from work, People people, especially in design school, like work their asses off, and like I also like I think you like you said the hustle porn or whatever is kind of whack. But if you do good work, the only reward to come from good work is more work. You know, like that's literally it. You know, so like you have to just do what you truly feel like a part of, what you love, what is really an extension of yourself. Yeah. Like this says words I can't. You know, like things I can't say out of my mouth. Like my artwork, my work says it for me instead. You know, everything is based in a philosophy of that. You know, so I think work comes from work. Keep your head down, grind. Try to at least have don't just grind for nothing though. Right. You know, like you can really find yourself in a wormhole of like just designing forever and never ending up anywhere because you don't have that goal in mind in the first place. So try to understand like what you're trying to do and then do that as best as possible, you know.
Nice, man. Well, yeah, I appreciate it, man. Where can people find you, your brand, the stuff you do?
Yep.
Let's get some links.
All right, so IG is at part_hole, PART_WHOLE. Hit me up on there, DM me. Like I'm always there. I answer all DMs no matter what.
Nice.
Even if it's like your artwork, your music. Like if you send me links to songs, people do this shit all the time because like I have like rappers and shit that follow me. They'll be like, "Oh, can you send this to whoever?" And I'll be like, I won't send it unless it's like, you know, like, whatever. Maybe I will, but you know, send me shit. I love to see people doing things, no matter what it is. I love people that just go out there and fucking do it. So hit me on IG. My email is steven at parthole.co. Obviously, on the Instagram, just hit me up on Insta. That's kind of the way. But I try to make an effort, like a real effort to answer everything that comes at me. So nice,
dude. Well, Steve, this was awesome, bro. This was and motivating. I'm sure everyone can see this, can believe this. Man, we got big things coming. Yeah. Now I got to go home. Now I'm feeling some juice to go home and get some shit done myself. For everyone watching, Moonlighters Club, man, we're on every major podcast network, Spotify, iTunes. You can find all our content on outside of the podcast on our website, moonlightersclub.com. And then our YouTube channel, which will have interview content like this, as well as our showcases that we put together. We got to put something together, man. We got to do an actual real cool event.
Absolutely, bro.
We definitely got to do something. I'm
always down. And, you know, anyone that sees this and, like, kind of wants anything, DM me. Say you saw it on Moonlighters. We'll get you a little discount, whatever. Of course.
Let's do it up, bro.
Joel, you got to send me some sizes, too.
All right, man. I'm down. I'm down. So, everyone, thank you for tuning in. We'll have plenty more interviews like this. And until next time, see you later.